Hello there, welcome back. My name is Dave and this is Fuzzee Tutorials. So we're going to be doing something a little different here today. We're putting together a custom PC for a subscriber. So I actually taped the first part of this last night, but had some technical difficulties. So we're starting over. Hopefully things will go a little smoother this time. So let's get started. All right, thanks for sticking with me. Sorry we had a little noise outside there. We had to stop for a bit. And I'm just having a heck of a time here. I actually originally recorded the first part of this last night and had a technical problem with my iPhone. It's for some reason switched from video mode to photo mode, so I did the whole thing and found out that I only snapped a couple of pictures with my remote instead of actually starting recording. So, and I just kind of did it again. After the noise stopped, I introduced all the parts and everything and had forgot to actually press record. So, third time's the charm, I hope. And we are officially recording this time. Okay, so before I get started showing you the parts, I just want to talk for a couple of minutes about what's been going on with my channel lately. For those of you who follow me, you probably noticed I haven't put out any videos for a little while. Unfortunately, I've been dealing with some health problems. As many of you know, I was really sick for a long time. I was pretty much confined to a wheelchair most of the time. I could still walk around the apartment, but that was about it. And anytime I went anywhere, I had to use a wheelchair or a walker. And I was on a lot of medications, so I was unable to do much of anything for quite a number of years. And I got into some alternative healing about a year ago or so. And that allowed me to get off a bunch of medications and get healthy, or healthier. And but there are still some residual things that come back and haunt me every once in a while. But we're not going to go into that. You don't care about that. You're here for tech stuff. So the other kind of the side of that is also, while I wasn't feeling very well there for a little while, I needed to catch up on modern tech work. I knew that I might have some possible computer builds coming up, you know, if for nothing else, one of my own. And I knew that I needed to really get caught up on everything I missed for 12 years. And this is the first computer I've built in about 15 years. Now I haven't, of course, caught up on everything across the board. I've kind of stuck with the AMD side after some initial research into what was the best bang for the buck. And we're going to be doing this for a friend of mine who's also a subscriber, and he's also someone I do some video editing work for on his channel. And we're building this for him so that he can start to learn how to do his own editing. And eventually he'll get to an area where I won't need to edit his stuff for him anymore. And I've also been wanting to get back into building some computers. I'm not going to be doing it like I used to, of course, but I'm going to be specializing in high-end custom builds, or reasonably high-end. I'm not really too interested in the general consumer level stuff. I'm not interested in doing tech work for other people. Again, But I am interested in helping people that really want to get a good quality system, something that they know they can rely on and something that they can upgrade. And of course, I love to teach people how to do this stuff so they can do it for themselves. And I'm also going to be specializing in something called a Hackintosh, which is we build we build a computer using a set of special parts that are known to be compatible, so that we can install a Mac OS and Windows dual boot on it, or Mac OS by itself if they want. And I'm a Mac guy now, so when I got sick, I couldn't really build computers anymore, so I wound up getting a MacBook, and I never looked back. But you know, whether you're on Apple or whether you're on regular PC architecture, they've all got their drawbacks. So building a Hackintosh is actually kind of the best of both worlds, in my opinion anyway. And it takes a lot of research to get the right parts. And it's going to have a limited lifespan, with Apple moving over to their own silicone here pretty soon. They're going to stop supporting Intel-based architecture or x86 architecture. Probably we're going to see an end of support in about 3 or 4 years, I would think. So this will have a limited lifespan, but right now the prices for getting an actual Mac, like a Mac Pro or something, or an iMac, the prices are quite prohibitive. So this is an option many people are looking to now, because they love the Mac universe. They just don't like the prices. So anyway, let's give you a quick introduction of what we're putting together here. So we've got a Ryzen 7 3700X, and we've got our media card reader for SD cards and flash cards and stuff. Now you wanted to go with this option as a dongle so that you can use it on other devices as well. They've got more than one computer in the house, so he wants that capability. And we've got some good Arctix MX4 thermal paste, because I don't trust the stuff that comes from the factories. And we've got a Seagate 2 terabyte spinner for our main data storage. And we've got a 500 gigabyte SSD for our boot drive. And you know, the reasons I'm going with this combination is cost. You know, this is all really high quality stuff, but it's just not the bleeding edge tech that you can get. We're staying away from the M.2 drives, not because they're not good, but because they're really expensive. That's just the reality of it. So we're going with a Radeon 5500 XT. This is a gigabyte one with 8 gigs of RAM. Now, being we're going to be using this for editing and general use, it's not a high-end gamer rig, so this was the most cost-effective solution. And we've got an MSI Gaming Plus Max X470 board. And the reason we didn't go with an X550 or an X570 was, again, cost. And this CPU is fast enough, it's probably not going to need any upgrades for quite a while, and we're not using M.2, so having that extra memory Gen 4 speed capability wasn't really that much of an issue for us. So There is one M.2 slot on here that is Gen 4, but it's probably never going to get used, but it's there if he ever decides to use it. And we've got our an Asus network card here. It's got your standard Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And we've got a couple of 120mm Noctua. Again, this is all about the best quality stuff you can get. So we've got a couple of those to add to the case. We've got an Antec 850 watt, 80 plus gold certified power supply. And we've got a Corsair Spec 5 mid-tower case. Now it doesn't have some of the newest features for mesh cooling and stuff like that, but because of the combination we're using here, that's just really not necessary. Now before I start with the actual build, I just want to give a quick shout out to some YouTube channels, because they're the ones that I mainly used for getting caught up on current tech, as well as manufacturer websites and forums and stuff like that. But you know, much of the information I got was through YouTube. So I want to give a shout out to Linus Tech Tips out of Vancouver. He's a fellow Canadian, so I like to support my fellow Canadians. And he's been doing it a while. He's got a great team over there, and they provide some really good information. So you'll probably want to check them out. And another one I want to give a shout out to is Robitech. He does live PC builds. He does 2 or 3 a week, every week, and he does them live on YouTube and Twitch, and he does giveaways and stuff like that. That's actually why I started watching him originally, was to see if I could win some computer parts. That didn't work out, but I learned some good stuff along the way. And Jay's 2 Cents is another one. He's got some good information there. And if you want to do a really deep dive into the performance specs and comparisons, and you like charts and graphs and that kind of thing, you're going to want to check out Gamer's Nexus. He does some excellent information over there. But I think one of the ones that I probably appreciate the most, although I've spent the least amount of time there on this channel, but it's a channel by the name of, and it's a fellow's name as well, Kerry Holtzman. And now he's more of a hardcore business side of things. He runs a business. He's been doing it for 30 years. He's got a lot of customers, and his focus is on building systems for business, stuff that's going to last a long time and work well together and be upgradable in the future, and something that he's not going to have to spend a bunch of time doing warranty repair on it. So he's actually he's the reason I'm going with this G-Skill Flare X RAM, because it was he had information from some of his contacts that this RAM is especially good for AMD systems. They worked hand in hand with AMD to develop this RAM, and you know, he's in his role as a businessman building systems for people. He was having a lot of stability issues with Threadripper systems, and he got to a point where he wouldn't even build them for customers anymore. And then one of his contacts gave him some information about a couple of combinations that were known to be very stable, that eliminated all the problems that he was having. So that's why we're going with this, and we're going with 32 gigs here. Now some might say that's a little bit of overkill, but with the video editing stuff, we're going to be I'm going to be teaching the customer who I'm building this for. I'm going to be teaching him DaVinci Resolve 16, and it's, in my personal opinion, it's the best thing going out there. And the free version that's available, it does pretty much anything you need to do, and it's all together in a single program. And now it will work fine on 16 gig systems. I use it on my MacBook Pro, and it's also available for Windows and for Linux. But when you start getting into compositing and animation and stuff, especially if you're dealing with 3D animation, you really need to have 32 gigs. Every time I get into doing some animation with 3D lettering and stuff, as soon as it starts getting fancy, it just brings my 16 gig MacBook Pro to its knees. So it's pretty much necessary if you're really going to start getting into the finer details. And as technology, of course, improves, that 32 gigs is going to become the norm, like 62 gig, or pardon me, like 16 gigs is now. All right, now that we got that all out of the way, let's start the build. So we'll take out our motherboard. Now the manual. I really want to recommend, if you don't build computers all the time, or you've never done it before, or you haven't done it in a while, I would really take the time and go through the manual that comes with your motherboard, whether it's this one or another one. Now over the last, I guess, 8 weeks or so, I've spent literally hundreds of hours educating myself, and there were still things that I learned in this book that weren't in the materials that I went through. So this is valuable stuff. See, one thing to remember is most of the tutorial channels out there that deal with hardware, in the world of YouTube, they like to keep their videos fairly short. Now there are a couple guys out there that do more detailed stuff that are longer videos. Robitech is one of them, and Kerry Holtzman is another. But most of them try and keep them short. So they gloss over a lot of stuff that a beginner or someone that hasn't done it for a while really needs to know. And we've got our I/O shield. And we've got our SATA cables. And a driver DVD, although I don't know how many people will still be able to use that. I can, but I'm kind of an OG. And we got some advertising stuff and some stickers. Now something that I kind of like is they've got some labeling stickers here so you can label your cables. That's pretty nice for organization. We're going to be making use of that, because it may not be me that works on this the next time. So and we got a fancy little badge here, which I think I'll probably put on. The rest of that stuff we're not going to need. Now we're not going to put this away just yet, because I'm going to use this to put some stuff together on. So we're going to use this anti-static bag here and set everything on that. Now, let's talk for a minute about tools. Now I've got a big box of tools down here that I'm probably not even going to haul out, because I want to keep this simple for you. So really all you need is a couple of small screwdrivers. You need a couple of Phillips You're going to need a really small Phillips if you're going to use the M.2 screws. But a couple of Phillips and a flat blade should be all you're going to need. And we're going to be making heavy use of zip ties to keep stuff organized. I hate a messy system. I've always been into cable organizing right back when I first started building these things, and zip ties came out. Before that, I used to use those little sandwich wire twist things to organize stuff. Okay. So let's get our CPU out here. Now there's a cooler in here, we'll get to that in a minute. Now, a couple of things I want to talk about here is when you're handling this, try not to touch the top and don't touch the bottom. Just handle it by the sides. The reason you don't want to touch the top is you don't want fingerprints on there, because the oils from your fingers will affect the thermal conductivity. No matter how good a paste you have, if you have oils on there, it's going to affect your heat transfer. So you need to be careful with that. Now, the way you figure out how to put the CPU in is if we look on the board here, and I'll pop a close-up picture up over top that you can look at a little closer. Or if this is clean enough, I'll zoom in on it in post-production. But in the bottom corner there, there's going to be a little triangle printed on the board. And there's going to be a little triangle or a dot on one of the corners on this CPU. And you need to match those up. Now, if you're not sure about that, also if you just look at the lettering on the back of the CPU and you look at this top part here that's thick, so that's the top of the socket. So you consider that the top, and then you want to line up the text so that it sits properly horizontal under that thick bar there. And you've got a little arm here. You grab it on the end, you just pull it out a tiny little bit, and it'll uncatch. You pop it up. And then you just very gently put it in position, and you just slide it around a little bit, and it'll eventually drop into the holes. And you just and I went and touched it with my fingers. Okay. So you don't need to do anything else. You just close that little arm, click it into place, and the CPU's in. So now we're going to put the cooling fan in there. Now there are bigger, better coolers you can put on this. I mean, you could get into water cooling. That's not something we talked about it when we were planning this system, but we elected to go with the air cooler that came with it because it's actually a pretty decent air cooler that comes with the 3700X. Now it is RGB. Neither myself or my client really care about RGB, but the one that comes with it's got it, so I guess we may as well use it. Okay. Now I'm going to clean this paste off and use our own paste. And I forgot to grab the supplies to do that, so just bear with me for a moment. All right. Now normally I would always recommend using rubbing alcohol to clean paste off. As it happens, our bottle's empty. And it's really difficult to get right now with the current circumstances. So I've got another product here that I use for cleaning a lot of stuff, and it works really well, and I think it's going to do the job nicely. It's a product called Solumel. You can do research on that if you want to look it up. I can't tell you who the manufacturer is because of the deal that we have with their shopping club. We're not allowed to advertise their stuff publicly on YouTube and that kind of thing. So you'll just have to do the research if you're interested in it. But rubbing alcohol will do fine normally. We almost got it all off there, but I just want to give a final wipe down, make sure we've got it all. You want to make sure you get right down into the little cracks there in the surface where the pipes are. And just because I'm a little worried about, I might have left some fingerprints on there, I'm going to clean off the CPU. And we'll give that a minute to evaporate. And no, I don't have a merch store that you can buy these at. This is a nice stainless steel thermos bottle with a little flip lid in it. You can operate one hand. I picked it up from our local superstore. Cost me about, I think I paid about 25 bucks for it or something. Absolutely love it. It keeps stuff cold for a long time. I can put some stuff in there and stick in a single ice cube and it'll stay ice cold for over 24 hours. All right. Now, something I want to caution you on with thermal paste. Now, there are a couple of ones out there like Grizzly Conductinaut that are supposed to be better. But there are some CPUs you're not supposed to use it on because it's a liquid metal. So this is a more general use. And if you're like me that had a bunch of thermal paste kicking around in my toolboxes, it's been sitting there for 15 years, you can't use this stuff that long. It goes bad after probably, if it's more than a couple years old, you don't want to use it. Now, there's a bit of controversy on some of these sites that you'll watch. Some of the guys, they'll put a dollop on and then use a little spreader. And that's actually the way we used to do it back in the day. But a lot of these guys, I mean, they're building high-end gaming systems and they're overclocking their CPUs. And a lot of them don't find the need to do that and they never have any problems. So all we're going to do is we're just going to make an X pattern on the top of the CPU. Just a thin line. Whoa. A little carried away there. And then just a little tiny dot in kind of the open space of each X'd out or X area on the sides. I think I'm going to wind up having some extra to clean up. But truth be told, it's better too much than not enough. Now when you get this, there actually is a little spreader that comes with it. If you decide you want to use that, you can. I'm going to hang on to it, but I'm not going to use it. And another little sticker for the case. Now I do want to mention you should hang on to these boxes. And the reason being is if you ever have any problems, most of the manufacturers are going to want the stuff back in its original box. So hang on to the boxes at least for 2 or 3 months. If your stuff lasts for 2 or 3 months without breaking, it's probably going to last for the long haul. But keep the stuff around for a while anyway. Okay. Now we're going to look for where our CPU fan plug is, and we're going to orient this so the cord doesn't have far to go. So I'll just quickly show you the pattern of paste I put on there. Now some guys say that just a big dollop in the middle is enough, but I'm a little bit paranoid when it comes to thermal paste because I've lost a few CPUs in the past because I didn't have enough thermal paste on them. Okay. And you also, of course, you're going to need to orient it so that these clips on the side here, you can see them. There's some matching clips screwed to the motherboard. Now if you're using a different cooler, it may come with some different clips that you'll have to install on the motherboard. But this one just works with the default ones that come with most boards. So we're just going to carefully place this down. Oh, by the way, on the one side you've got a little cam that tightens this bracket, but there isn't one on the other side. You just clip that over. It's got some up and down play here. You just clip that in over here, and then you tighten down the other side. And this just fits in here perfectly. You want to just press it down and maybe wiggle it just a slight bit. Oh, we got off track here. Oh, this other side keeps catching on me. Okay, I'm gonna hold that one up. Oh, for crying out loud. There we go. Yeah, we got it off there. Okay. And this is why you want to have a flashlight handy. Okay. There we go. Yeah, and then we just rotate this lever. And she's all tightened down. Just give her a gentle wiggle, make sure it can't move. And we're going to plug into our fan header. Now there's a little plastic clip beside the pins that matches a little groove on the back of the plug here, so you can't put it in backwards. And this is why you want to put this stuff together before you put it in the case. Otherwise you're just making your life difficult. And we're just going to tuck this out of the way so everything stays neat and tidy. All right. Now these other cables that are in here are for the RGB. And I'm not sure if I'm going to bother plugging them in. I'm just going to see how difficult it's going to be to plug them in now that I've got it on. Now there's a little slide switch on the side here that says L and H. It says, I don't know whether that's low or high for fan speed, although I don't think it is. It's probably low or high for the RGB lights, but I want to be sure. So, look at the manual. Doesn't actually say where to connect those other wires. Ah, there we go. So there's a little rubber plug back here. And we're just going to put that switch on H just in case. We'll have to look that up later. Okay, so we've got two different options for plugging in the RGB. One, you can plug it onto an older style USB 2 header. And they've got another one where you can plug it into an RGB header. So if I'm going to plug this in, I'm going to use the RGB header one. Okay, now I just got to find my RGB header on the motherboard here. Now if you do decide you're going to use water cooling on here, there are plugs for the pump on here. They're right in this corner there. So there's the RGB one way over here. So I'm going to use the number 2 one since it's close to the fan. Now it's got a little rubber band wrap on there, but those tend to break down after a while, so I'm just going to take that off. And I'll replace that with a zip tie. Okay, when you place this into the fan, there's some little tiny ridges on the side, and there's some matching grooves in here, and they're placed in such a way that one's higher than the other, so you can't put this in upside down. So once again, they keep you from putting it in the wrong way. So if you're finding it just doesn't want to go in, then you've probably got it upside down. Okay. I'm not having a hard time getting it in, I'm paranoid about making sure it's seated correctly. Now if you notice on the other end of this plug, on the RGB plug here, there's a little arrow at one end. And you're going to need to line that up with either the white square around the pin or the 12 volt. It'll be marked one or the other. This one actually has both. Okay. Now I'm going to dig into my stash of zip ties. Where did I put it? Now normally, if I was doing, a custom RGB build, and if I had wire extensions and that kind of thing to make it all fancy, I would probably go and get some black zip ties. But I had these laying around, and I hate to see things go to waste, so I'm just going to use them. Now something that you're going to want, another tool that I didn't think to mention here earlier, is you're going to want a pair of side cutters or something to cut those tails off. So I'm actually going to break out my big tool kit here. Since I got it open, I'll just show you a couple quick things, specialty tools that I had or have. These really long ones when you're dealing with either deep cases or if you're having to do some work in a laser printer, pulling stuff apart, or a photocopier, that's what you use these for. In these ones, we've got some special Torx drivers, as well as some tamper-proof Torx, where you might run across, especially on some older laptops. Compaq, I know, was one that used to use them. That's why I had to buy them, because I was Compaq certified. And they've got holes in the middle for a pin that goes over the pin on a tamper-proof Torx. So I've got those in various sizes, and we got some nut drivers that are especially handy for when you're working on standoffs in the case. It's easier than trying to use a flat screwdriver. So I'm actually going to keep this out. And my side cutters are not in here. So I'm going to grab a couple other little handy tools. You don't need them, but if you got them, they can make your life easier. This is it's actually a medical tool. It's a clamp. And these little scissors will probably do the job. Yep. Okay. And we've got some special real skinny screwdrivers with little rotating tips on it. Now I bought these standalone, but if you buy one of the newer iFixit kits, you can get them in there. This could be another handy tool. Now you can use a magnetic tool, but back in the day, magnetic screwdrivers weren't as easy to get as they are now. So this is actually a little claw. It's got a little plunger on it, and 3 wires are bent on the end, so you can grab screws out of weird spaces. So this is a handy tool to have if you can get your hands on that. And I got lots of tools and parts and pieces that you just don't see anymore, or you have no use for. I want to show you something for comparison. Back in the day when I was building computers before, this was a CPU cooler. Pretty big difference in size, huh? But you'll find there's a lot of modern electronics that use those types of fans, so that's why I hung on to it. More zip ties. I've got scads of them everywhere. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do here is our RAM. Now you'll notice there's four RAM slots here, and if you're just putting in 2 memory boards, you have to put them in the right ones. and you don't put them in side by side actually, because it's dual channel memory. You have to actually, if you're just putting in two, you start at the second one away from the CPU. You put one in there, and then you skip one, and then you put another one in there. But we're filling all four, so it doesn't really matter. So they've got these little snap pieces at the end. You have to tip them all out. Now some boards only have snap pieces at one end. This one has them at both. Oh, maybe I won't need that after all. And we've got another sticker. I'm going to try to avoid handling the edge pins here. Once again, hang on to your packaging just in case. Okay, now, the next thing to notice, if you look on here, you see a little notch. And now there is a matching ridge for that notch down in these slots. And it's offset from the middle, so you can only put the memory in one way. So you just have to make sure you line that up. You just get it lined up, and then you press it firmly in place until those little tabs on the end snap in. There we go. If they don't snap all the way up, then it's not fully seated. Go. And you notice there's no RGB on the memory. RGB costs more. So if you're budget minded, or if you don't care about the RGB, avoid it, because all it does is draw more power and cost you more money. Okay, so that's about as far as we're going to get before we put this in the case. So this video is getting pretty long. We're recording time is just about an hour, so by the time I cut this down a little bit, it's still going to be about probably 45 minutes or so. So I'm going to continue building and recording, but this is where we're going to end this video for now. And you can watch the next video to see the build continue. So I appreciate you coming by. And if you like what we're doing here, make sure you click that like button. Give me the thumbs up. If you don't like what I'm doing, well, the other one works too. And if you want to see other stuff that we're doing, and you think we've got value to our content, please subscribe and make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming videos. So if you're looking for that step-by-step guide to do a complete build start to finish, including installing Windows and the video editing software and doing some de-bloating of Windows, that kind of thing, that's all going to be included in this series. So make sure you come on back and check us out. So thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.